Before taking AP Literature, I did not acknowledge how my current level of reading disrupted my capability of analyzing the theme of the author that he was trying to present. The way I was reading only influenced me to search and get a sense of the author's main idea, rather than understanding the deep differences of the text that are crucial to an interpretation of the work as a whole. Author Vladimir Nabokov included a list of abilities in his text one must inherit to be a good reader. In my opinion, Nabokov's list seemed a bit overdramatic in the way he describes some of the attributes of a good reader as being very specific or illogical. Compared to author Francine Prost, Nabokov and Prost both, however, shared similar qualities with one another. Both authors illustrated their arguments in unique manners. However, they overly contributed three of the same characteristics of a good reader, in which I use myself to be the largest criteria of improvement. Among these three abilities include interpreting the actual words and sentence structure of the author, being able to have a sense of imagination and creativity, and reading aloof while analyzing the text without getting emotionally attached. During the reading of Nabokov, I had a bit of trouble understanding the piece, and this caused me to lose focus of comprehending the author's main points. During the reading, I emotionally got attached to some of the details because I could relate to some of the topics myself. This, however, caused my focus to shift even further from me trying to understand Nabokov's theme to me not even knowing what Nabokov was writing about. This, however, made me realize that I needed to change the way I was reading. For example, when Nabokov started using the story of a boy who cried wolf, I instantly related to that because it's a story most people are familiar with. However, my interpretation of the boy who cried wolf, which is a young boy who gave false alarms of danger to others, was completely useless and different regarding to how Nabokov used it. Nabokov used a boy who cried wolf in order to explain how literature invents things for the reader that aren't actually there. And it is the job for myself, the reader, to understand why certain pieces of the text are included in each work. I stopped paying attention to the text when Nabokov's argument wasn't making me feel overly interested, therefore causing me to have a lack of communication between the author's intentions and myself. I realized that after reading the piece, that losing interest in the text only decreases my reading abilities, in which I never really paid close attention to before reading any piece previously. I felt completely detached, however, when I read Brave New World. The diction Aldous Huxley used made me lose interest in the piece, so I read the novel with little to no enjoyment whatsoever. Because the novel made me feel very bored, I didn't analyze the text deeply as I should have been doing, or even use some of my current reading abilities. Now that after reading both Nabokov's and Huxley's pieces of text, I knew it was time to increase my reading skills and abilities. When reading Beowulf, instead of allowing for my opinions and beliefs to affect the way I read or try to guide the way I read, I tried to enhance my observational skills. Even though this was very difficult to do so, I attempted to become an overly engaged reader while also being an impassive reader as well. Beowulf made me once again lose interest in reading it and caused me to not pay close attention to it that I should have been doing throughout the whole piece. No matter the amount of effort I put forth to find some desire in reading, I just couldn't understand the sentence structure. However, this time, I was more aware that it was essential to find small differences within the text, and I didn't even realize it. For example, taking notes of the distinctions between Christian and pagan beliefs in my mind made it less stressful to find the themes of the text within it. I used this knowledge to discover the motives of the characters within the poem itself. Knowing what I needed to search for and focus on helped me establish connections between the author and his main points. I, however, still could use some more areas of improvement in my reading. For example, I used some of my previous learning skills of reading when reading the Canterbury Tales. I could comprehend the author's intentions for writing on a deeper level than before, analyzing closely to the diction structure, themes, motifs, and even symbols. By analyzing the sentence structure, I could see the irony in the corruptness of the pardoner himself. I even realized how Chaucer never critiqued the pardoner, how wicked he appeared to even be. Therefore, This engaged me to gain a more analytical interpretation of the tale. The prologue, however, I could not achieve the same understanding whatsoever. With so many characters, it was difficult to distinguish the different traits of each one. Even though during the read of the Canterbury Tales, I could enhance my reading skills, I felt that there was still room for improvement. I needed to become more interested in a text when a piece contracts my attention span. If I use my imagination and creativity together, I will be able to distinguish each character of the prologue with ease and at a fast rate. Because I feel that when I read without desire, then it causes me to lose focus of the text within itself. For example, trying to find whether the thesis is explicitly listed or implicitly enlisted. And I feel that's one of my most struggles that I've had when reading. So that is one example that I would use too. When I was reading prose, I focused heavily on the diction as well, while trying to enhance my creativity. What I didn't do in our previous text was highlight important components of the work, just to make sure my focus didn't shift from not being fully interested to not even reading the text at all. Highlighting the text allowed me to have more of a desire in reading the text, even though I found it somewhat boring. Because this prose's work wasn't plot-driven, I couldn't really use my imagination to help me understand the text the way I was hoping to do so. However, I could still use the other two qualities of a good reader that Nabokov used to help me grasp a greater understanding of prose's writing style. During the read of Paradise Lost, I felt very efficient in most of these three qualities, even though I was lacking some improvement in my reading analyzations. The most difficult attribute I felt difficult dealing with was using my creativity and imagination simultaneously and in unison, so I made sure that was my main focus points throughout the whole read of Paradise Lost. Because Paradise Lost was a fictional story, I found it rather easy to use creativity and understanding the overall theme of the piece based upon the ongoing battle between God from heaven and Satan from hell. The imagery was explicitly described in the story, so a sense of imagination was simple to come by. Since I have a religious background in Christianity, I could relate to some of the references from the Bible within the story itself, and made me have more of a desire in reading the piece. I felt as if after reading Paradise Lost, I could blend all three abilities without even realizing I'm doing so. This will benefit my further readings and analyzations in future texts that I read, in which I will use all three qualities of a good reader that Nabokov stated to have an actual desire to read closely and with a focus of attention. I felt that the reading journal really benefited me in a way that I could actually understand the author's main themes within the text, because before when I would just read that, I felt that that I wouldn't be able to understand what I was reading, which would cause me to have less of a desire to actually read the story itself. So one of my most struggles was actually having the effort to read closely to actually analyze the author's main intentions. And I feel that by me writing down what I feel and what I see in a story actually benefited me in understanding the story as a whole. So by having questions to guide me in my understanding of the story, it helped me in the long run, because I could use those questions to help me understand any piece in my future career. I felt that reading closely, such as Nabokov and prose listed, can not only help me read better, but help me understand how certain things are listed in the world, such as how certain aspects of reading could guide me to have a better understanding of the text. And this is why the reading journal has benefited me so much, because by jotting down my thoughts, I could actually see visually how I can engage in different perspectives of tackling the piece itself. And by having discussions, I could actually have different perspectives from different of my classmates to actually help me or guide me to complete a full conclusion of why each author wrote the piece. Thank you.